Hi, I'm Steen, and I'm going to show you how you're going to receive SSTV images from the International Space Station using Ubuntu 20.04. Now, I have a relatively fresh installation of Ubuntu 20.04 here, and the first thing you need to make sure is that you have an Ethernet cable plugged into your computer. WebSDR doesn't really work over Wi-Fi, at least it works a lot better over Ethernet. So plug your cable in and make sure that you have a wired internet connection. Now the next thing we need to do is install the necessary software. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enlarge this a bit and write sudo apt update, and I have to enter my password so that we are updating all the repositories. The next thing we need to do is install the necessary software. So I'm going to write sudo apt install. We need Pulse Audio. You probably already have Pulse Audio. I think it's default in Ubuntu 20.04. And then you need a program called PAVU Control. It stands for Pulse Audio Volume Control, and it's a program we are going to use to make sure that the sound gets from your web browser and into the QSSTV program, which takes care of converting the audio to images. And then of course we need the program QSSTV. And I like to add a tag Y here so I don't have to answer yes all the time. Now this takes a few seconds on my machine because I already have those programs installed. On your computer it might take a few minutes. But once it's installed, you can start QSSTV by pressing, for example, the super key and entering QSSTV, and it's starting up now. Once you've started QSSTV, you'll see that you have a large area here where the images are generated. You have a settings window over here and an audio monitor to the far right. The first thing we need to do is to go into Options, Configuration, click on the Sound tab, and we need to make sure that the audio interface is marked as Pulse Audio and the audio input device is set to default playback recording through the Pulse Audio sound server. You also need to make sure that the clock frequency is 48,000 and the sound input is set to from sound card. Once that is done, you can check all these settings over here. Auto slide should be on, auto save should be on, sensitivity normal mode auto, default image format PNG, and I like to use save if complete 10% so that it will save if it gets 10% of an image. And that's basically it. We're ready to receive now. The next thing we need to do is to make sure that sound generated in a web browser will be sent into the QSSTV program. And for that I press the super key again and then I enter PAVU for opening Pulse Audio Volume Control. And in this program you can see we have a few tabs here: playback, recording, output devices, input devices, and configuration. And we need to go to the recording tab. And in the recording tab you should make sure that QSSTV is set to monitor of built-in audio analog stereo. That way you will send audio directly from the web browser into QSSTV. So the next thing we need to do is to open a web browser. I'm using Firefox here, and I have a test recording here of an audio file with an image being transmitted encoded as SSTV. So the moment I press play here, the audio should be going into the QSSTV program here, and we should start to see an image being generated. So I'm pressing play here, and you can hear the sound here, and you can turn it up and you can turn it down. And we can see here, we have in the audio monitor, you can see a spectrum analyzer up here, you can see the waterfall below, and you can see a nice image being formed here as time goes by. Now what's important to know here is that you can turn the volume up or down as you like. That does not influence the volume of the received audio in the QSSTV program, but you cannot turn the audio all the way off. If you turn your master volume all the way down to 0, it will also be turned off here, and you will not be receiving any image. So you can turn it almost all the way down, but not all the way. So this looks like it's working, and once this image is through, we can start to receive actual images via WebSDR. There, that's a very nice image we received. So the next thing we need to do is to go to the WebSDR. Now we're using the Goonhilly WebSDR, which is making test transmissions of SDR images. What you need to do is, of course, go to the website, and if the waterfall is off, you can turn it on here so that you can view what's actually being received. You also need to turn the volume all the way up. And right now you can hear some noise. That's perfectly fine. Here you can see the QSSTV program is actually receiving noise. There's a lot of noise here. That's perfect. So we're ready to receive. You need to make sure that you are on the right frequency. 145,800 kilohertz is the frequency that the International Space Station is transmitting on. You need to make sure that the FM is selected here as modulation, and the filter is currently set to 12 kilohertz. You can turn that up to 15, because that way you will accommodate the Doppler shift from the space station as it's moving overhead. The frequency is changing from a little bit more than 145.8 to a little bit less than 145.8. And by enlarging our receiving bandwidth, we can accommodate this Doppler shift in here. Now, as you can see, we're receiving a lot of noise. I can turn up the volume a bit and go into the QSSTV program here. And once the International Space Station comes up over your horizon, or the horizon of the location of the WebSDR receiver, you should be able to receive some sound here and see a picture. So all we have to do now is wait and see if we are going to receive an image. Maybe I should also show you that you can see on the waterfall here that this is where we're receiving. Oh, there's sound, there's an image. And it looks like we're receiving a very nice image right now. Of course, there's a bit of noise in this image. There wasn't before, because that was a very clean audio file. This has actually been transmitted through radio, so you can see a bit of noise in this image. And of course, when you receive real images from the International Space Station, there will probably be even more noise on it. But this looks very nice. In the WebSDR, you can see on the waterfall here a very thick yellow line here. Actually, you can choose here under view, you can choose weak 6. That means there will be a lot more contrast in this image, and you can see weak signals better. This is actually a fairly strong signal, but once you start receiving real transmissions from the ISS, they might be weak, and it's easier to see them if you turn this weak signals on. So here you can see at 145.8, very strong signal here, and we are actually receiving a very nice image of a parabolic dish antenna here. And of course, if you have any problems with the audio, make sure in the power control here that this is set to monitor of built-in audio analog stereo. There we go. Very nice picture of this parabolic dish antenna we received over WebSDR here, and piped that audio into QSSTV, which turned it into an image. And these images are automatically saved, and in the configuration on directories, you can see exactly where in your directory structure these files are saved. Good luck!